At 9 that morning, the day my divorce was final, my wife stood in the courthouse parking lot, waved our house keys at me, and laughed. Quick thing before we go on. I made a free money starter kit. No cost, no catch, the playbook I wish I had when I was broke. The link's in the description. Grab it. She said, keep the junk, I'm taking the real money. So she took the good half. And the junk she left behind is the part that made me rich. 10 years later, she came back to my door and begged. Let me tell you exactly how that happened. Back then I ran the numbers desk at a freight company. 14 years, same desk, same thermos. Steady job, steady paycheck, nothing shiny about any of it. Every dollar I earned got written down in a green notebook I'd carried since I was 19. My daughter Ellie was 6. Sunday morning she'd sit on the kitchen counter and drop coins into a pickle jar, one at a time, because she loved the sound. I told her that jar was a seed. She believed me. Her mother didn't. Saturday mornings I helped out at Hartwell Supply, a plumbing and hardware place that smelled like sawdust and machine oil. That's where Walt worked, 70 years old, gruff as a rusted hinge, and he'd kept Hartwell's books for 30 years. Walt liked to tell me, boring money is still money, son. Usually it's the only money that stays. And then there was my wife, Chelsea. Chelsea wanted the granite counters, the leased cars, the club brunches. She used to look at my green notebook like it was a dead mouse on the table. You count pennies, she'd say. Real men make money loud. So here's the injustice, and I want you to hear exactly how she did it. My birthday dinner. 12 people at the table. Chelsea taps her glass like she's about to give a toast. Instead, she slides a manila envelope across the cake plates and says, "Happy birthday, Eric. I want a divorce." In front of my parents. In front of Ellie's godmother. She'd moved her things out that same morning. And there was a man named Brad waiting outside the restaurant in a convertible. I wish I was making that up. When I just sat there, stunned, she leaned down and delivered the line she'd clearly rehearsed. "You're a boring little nobody, Eric." I upgraded. At the lawyer's office, she wanted it fast and she wanted the good half. The new house worth $400,000. The sports car, $80,000. The savings, $220,000 in cash. $700,000 of shiny spendable money, and her lawyer could barely keep a straight face. What was left for me? A brokerage account full of boring index funds, $190,000. A shabby rental duplex on Alder Street with a bad roof, worth maybe $110,000. And a 4% stake in Hartwell Supply, worth $40,000 on paper. Chelsea looked at that list and actually snorted. "Keep the junk," she said. "I'm taking the real money." My lawyer begged me to fight it. I signed instead. I wanted peace for Ellie more than I wanted a war. And out in the parking lot, Chelsea laughed that laugh. That laugh is the reason this video exists. Now rewind a little so you understand how we got here. I met Chelsea at 24. She was fireworks. I was a spreadsheet. For a few years, that mix actually worked. I built the boring pile slowly, the way you build anything real. Every raise for 12 years went into index funds, every other Friday, automatic, rain or shine. The duplex came from an estate auction, $62,000. With a roof I patched myself over 2 long weekends. And the Hartwell stake. The year the owner got sick, the business needed cash fast. I handed over my whole bonus, $35,000 for 4% of the company, papers signed right on Walt's desk. Chelsea didn't speak to me for a week. "You buy pieces of boring things," she said. "Brad buys tables at the club." Yeah. She was already saying his name. Those last 2 years, we drifted. She got a gym membership and a new phone password in the same month. Date nights turned into club nights I wasn't invited to. I told myself every marriage has seasons. Turns out some seasons are named Brad. After the divorce, Walt found me in the Hartwell back room, staring at nothing. He poured me coffee that tasted like burnt toast and handed me the sentence that changed my life. "Loud money grabs what glitters, son. Quiet money keeps what grows." She took the glitter. "You still own everything that grows." That night I opened the green notebook and started tracking every dollar again. Groceries, gas, furnace filters, everything. Because when the glitter walks out, the numbers are what's left. And numbers don't laugh at you. Then life decided to test me. 3 times. Each one worse than the last. Setback 1. I had nowhere to go, so I moved into the empty side of my own junk. The duplex on Alder Street. Mattress on the floor, drafty windows. A water stain on the ceiling shaped like Texas. I painted Ellie's weekend room yellow and told her it was an adventure. That first month, my neighbors were a retired mail carrier and a night shift nurse who felt sorry for me. The nurse left a lasagna on my step with a note that said, "Hang in there." I was the charity case of Alder Street, and Chelsea was on a boat. Then the first winter, the furnace died and cracked my budget wide open. $11,000 for the furnace and the worst half of the roof. I said the number out loud in that empty kitchen. 11,000. Saying it was supposed to make it hurt less. It didn't. Chelsea dropped Ellie off that Sunday, looked at the porch, and smirked. "From 4 bedrooms to this. Enjoy the junk, Eric." I waved. I smiled. Then I went back inside and ate dinner on a folding chair. You gotta smile. The kid is always watching. Setback 2. 8 months later, the market dropped hard. My boring index funds fell 30%. 190,000 became 130,000. $60,000 gone on paper in one ugly season. And everybody had jokes. Guys at work said, "Guess she really did get the good half, huh?" Even my own mother told me to sell before it hit zero. I called Walt with my finger on the sell button. He just grunted. "You only lose the day you sell, son. Boring drops slow and comes back mean. Keep buying." So I kept buying. Every other Friday. Same as always. Hands shaking on some of those Fridays, but same as always. Do the scoreboard math from back then. Her side, $700,000 of glitter. My side, $130,000 of boring, a duplex with a Texas stain, and a slice of a hardware barn. Everyone said she won the divorce. Scoreboards lie. Setback 3. This one came for the junk itself. Year 3, Walt slid the books across his desk. My 4% was worth $110,000 on paper. 2 weeks later, a national chain opened across the road, selling pipe below cost to bleed us out. Then a guy who buys dying businesses called. $4,000 for my stake. $4,000 for paper worth $110,000 3 months before. $11,000 to the furnace. $60,000 underwater in the funds. Now $110,000 of Hartwell quoted at $4,000. The junk itself was dying. Walt caught me holding the sell papers. Chains sell boxes, son. We sell answers. Every plumber in this county knows this counter by name. Sell at the bottom, you're selling your nerve. I never signed. Chelsea picked that season to go loud. The Maldives with Brad. A $30,000 watch. Captioned, "Finally with a man who knows what money is for." Then she did it to my face again. At Ellie's school fundraiser, in front of a gym full of parents, she announced, "Don't ask Eric for a donation. His hardware store is dying. Eric counts pennies in a duplex now." Some people laughed. Not all of them. Enough of them. That night, Ellie asked me, quiet as a mouse, "Daddy, are we poor?" And I gave her the truest answer I had. "No, sweetheart. We're patient." And then, slowly, then all at once, the boring stuff did what boring stuff does. It grew while nobody was clapping for it. Year 4, the neighborhood around Alder Street turned. A coffee place opened on the corner. Young families started bidding on anything with a porch. My shabby duplex appraised at $420,000. I checked that letter 3 times at the kitchen table. The index funds I'd kept feeding through the crash. They came back mean, just like Walt promised. That account crossed $900,000 and kept climbing. Then, year 6, the phone call. 3 years of bleeding against Walt's counter, and the chain across the road did the math. Buying Hartwell Supply was cheaper than beating it. Walt called me first. "Son, you might want to sit down. Your 4% just got a price tag." The wire hit my account on a Tuesday morning while I sat with cold coffee at that same kitchen table. $1,600,000. The stake I nearly sold for $4,000. I put my finger on the screen and counted the zeros one at a time. A 1. A 6. Then 5 zeros standing in a row like little soldiers. Add it up with me. The duplex, $420,000. The funds, $900,000. The buyout, $1,600,000. The junk, the pile she laughed at in a parking lot, had crossed $3 million. I said it out loud twice before my hands went still. $3 million. The junk. Now, you want to know the first thing I bought? Nothing for me. And the first money that moved wasn't for revenge either. It was for Walt. Walt's wife June had waited 2 years on a hip replacement because of an $18,000 insurance gap. I paid it that week. Didn't ask permission. Just gave the hospital my card and told them to send June the good robe. Then I slid a check across Walt's desk, the same desk where I'd signed for my stake. $200,000. He tried to push it back at me. I told him, "Walt, You sold me on boring while the whole world was selling shiny. The advice was the asset. This is your cut. He didn't say much. He stood up, looked out the window for a long moment, and then he called June. Ellie's college fund got filled to the brim that same month. She didn't know a thing. She was 9. All she knew was the pickle jar kept getting heavier and Dad whistled in the mornings now. And me? I paid off the duplex, fixed the roof for good, and stayed right where I was. No sports car, no mansion, no posts, not one photo, not one victory lap online. Quiet money stays quiet. That's not shyness, that's strategy. The gap between us was growing every single month, and she didn't even know there was a gap. 6 years after that courthouse parking lot on a rainy Thursday night, there was a knock on my door. Chelsea, holding a casserole dish like a peace treaty, wearing a face I'd never seen on her before. Humble. Or a costume of it. Here's what the good half had turned into by then. The house? Refinanced twice to fund the lifestyle, then lost to the bank. The sports car? Sold at a brutal loss. The $220,000 in cash? Gone by the third spring. And Brad did what glitter does. The day her accounts hit empty, he evaporated. She was flat broke and $41,000 deep in credit card debt. She'd seen the story about the Hartwell buyout in the local business news. My name was in the third paragraph. First came the disbelief. She stepped into my kitchen doing math out loud with her eyes. The new roof. The good truck in the driveway, fully paid. The college pennant on Ellie's wall. This has got to be a joke, she said. You, the man who counts pennies? They're saying you're worth millions. I poured her a coffee and said nothing. Silence is free, and some days it's worth a fortune. Then came the desperation, and folks, you could tell it was rehearsed. She touched my arm. Eric, I've been thinking about us. About our family. I always believed in you. Deep down, you know that. We were good together. I just need $60,000 to clear the cards and get steady again. A fresh start. Maybe I could even come home. Come home. To the duplex. To the junk. I set down my coffee, and I handed her back her own sentence, word for word, 6 years cold. You told me to keep the junk, Chelsea. I did. She blinked like I'd slapped her with a pillow. So I asked the only question that mattered. You took the real money. $700,000 of it. Where did it go? And she had no answer. Glitter never leaves a... Now here's the part some of you won't like, and I'm at peace with that. I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. Cruelty is expensive, and I don't buy expensive things. But I didn't write her a check either. A bailout with no boundary is just a donation to the same fire. Here's what I did instead. Ellie gets covered by me, fully, always. Her school, her doctor, her half of the rent wherever her mother stays, paid straight to the landlord every month Ellie is under that roof. Ellie. Not the lifestyle. And I paid for 3 months with a credit counselor Walt trusts if she wanted the help. To her credit, for once, she took the boring option. That Saturday, I drove out to Walt's place. June walked to the truck with no cane and a pitcher of lemonade. Walt raised his coffee mug at me from the porch and said 2 words, quiet money. That's the picture I keep in my head, not her face at my door. That porch. So let me hand you the whole lesson in one line, the same line I'll teach Ellie until she can say it in her sleep. Real wealth is assets that grow, not assets that glitter. Glitter impresses a room for one night, and it's gone by spring. Growth is boring on purpose. Boring is what winning looks like while it's still loading. Last Sunday, Ellie sat on my counter dropping coins into that same pickle jar. She's taller now. Smarter than me, probably. She looked at the jar and asked, Daddy, is this junk? And I said, no, sweetheart. It's a seed. Junk is whatever stops growing the day you buy it. So be honest with me in the comments. Someone hands you the good half, all cash today. Or the junk, boring things that quietly grow for 10 years. Which one are you actually taking? And if you take the junk, hit subscribe because this channel is built for people like us. I'm Eric. Thanks for sitting with me. I'll see you in the next one.